left hand. Unfortunately, that one would be called back because of a penalty, but it's still impressive, so that's why we see it right there. Welcome, everybody, to NFL Live on a Monday. So glad you're with us. We're just a few hours away from Monday Night Football. Of course, the Vikings and the Bears will get all the information that you need to know from Soldier Field. Dan Orlovsky, the back of your head looking real good today, Dan. We got Mina Kimes, we got Marcus Spears there, Adam Schefter with us as well. And let's begin with breaking news. This one all about Saints QB Drew Brees. He has multiple rib fractures on both sides of his chest and a collapsed lung on the right side, according to Ed Werder. Adam Schefter, what are you hearing about Brees' health right now and the Saints' immediate plans at quarterback?
Well, Lauren, make no mistake about it. He's going to miss some time here. The question is, how much? Dan Graziano said a short time ago that the initial estimates could be 2 to 3 weeks, maybe longer, depending on this injury. But you've got 3 fractured ribs on the left side. You've got 2 fractured ribs on the right side. You've got a collapsed lung at this point in time. That's a lot of injuries for an older quarterback to get through at this point in time. And so for the time being, Sean Payton does not want to identify who's going to start in Brees' place. But think of it this way. When Brees went out of the game yesterday, when he was having a hard time breathing, they turned to Jameis Winston. You'd have to imagine they do the same thing this week against Atlanta because they value Taysom Hill as a playmaker, a catcher, a runner, a receiver, somebody who can play on special teams. And so that may be the arrangement for this team for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, Adam, right back with us momentarily. And you mentioned Sean Payton there. Sean Payton was asked about this about an hour ago, did not comment on Brees' injury situation at all. You heard Adam there talking about 2 to 3 weeks at least for Drew Brees. That may even be on the optimistic side. Dan, how big a deal is this for the Saints?
Oh, this is enormous. This is a team that's trending toward the 1 seed in the NFC. And we know the playoffs are different this year, where that 1 seed is the only team that's going to get a bye. And we have to understand how this offense operates under Drew Brees. And operate is the perfect word. You know, this is a quarterback that has a complete understanding of how they want to call their plays. And the ball gets out of his hands into playmakers like Alvin Kamara's hands and Michael Thomas's hands. And it's this constant churning forward. If you go back to last year when he got hurt, that's exactly the style that Teddy Bridgewater played under, because they're very similar quarterbacks. Jameis is not really that kind of quarterback. Jameis doesn't play the point guard type of quarterback where he's completion driven and he wants to get ball out into space with their pass catchers, the ability to kind of run after the catch. And so how is this offense now going to operate with Sean Payton going, okay, Jameis Winston's a different type of player, and how is he going to get our offense to be as just efficient as Drew always has? And so this is a really big deal with this football team.
Dan, you're absolutely right. James is obviously very different from Brees, which is why I'm curious to see whether they changed the offense at all, whether they changed the game plan. I'm not going to make any judgments based on what we saw from him coming in relief of Brees when he got hurt. But here's what I'll add. This isn't just monumental for the Saints. It's monumental for Jameis Winston. Look, we know what his problem is as a quarterback. It's no secret. It's the turnovers. Now, in Tampa Bay, people defended him at times, saying didn't have a good run game, didn't have good protection until the end of his career. They didn't have a good defense. Well, in New Orleans, he's got an amazing run game, an amazing offensive line, and over the last 2 weeks, an amazing defense.
Yeah.
There's no more excuses. Heck, he can't even blame his eyesight. He got LASIK. So this doesn't even just matter for him now. It just doesn't just matter for the Saints. This matters for the trajectory of his career because it'll be forever shaped by what happens over the next few weeks.
Yeah, both of you make great points. This boils down to the project of Sean Payton and Jameis Winston, right? We said that he needed to take some time away from the field so he could see the game in a different way. We all know what we're talking about. We're talking about ball security. We're talking about the difference between the New Orleans Saints being able to hold this thing together until Drew Brees can get back. That's the bottom line. So I want to see the influence of Sean Payton on Jameis Winston. I want to see all of those practices that he's had a chance to amass, all of the sideline work that he's been able to do between Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and watching a Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it, operate at his job, and see if that influences how Jameis Winston's approach changes when he's installed into the football game. So I can't wait to see if we see a new Jameis, a more affluent quarterback as far as decision making.
Okay. Dan, when this happened yesterday and they showed some photos of Drew Brees, video of him right after it happened, you said he's injured his ribs. You've had similar injuries.
Yeah.
Just how would you describe what it feels like when just as a regular person, when I hear cracked ribs and punctured lungs, I think it sounds terrible.
Yeah, I cracked and fractured my third and fourth rib, which are up high, and then punctured my lung. And so the biggest challenge was it was on my right side. It was the pain aspect of things. I didn't practice all week, played in the game, but it was a pain thing and really couldn't take shots for that pain because really it's so close to your aorta, you've got to be ready for if something catastrophic happens. And so it affected every single thing that I did as a quarterback. And it was a big deal of okay, coach, you got to know I can't take any shots. And so it's going to be about how quickly Drew can heal and then deal with the pain. And I'd add two things. This is huge because this is a win now team as well. This is a team that is built to win the Super Bowl this year. Next year's a rebuild. And so there's a lot of layers to this injury for the Saints and for the NFL.
Yeah, Adam, let's bring you back in here with more.
You don't have to worry about it.
What'd you say, Marcus?
You don't have to worry about it when you got padding around your ribs like me.
Well,
you got to worry about breaking them things.
Oh, my goodness. All right, on that note, let's bring Adam back in here with more on this whole situation. Adam, you just heard Dan referring to it. Felt like the Saints were going all in this year on trying to win the Super Bowl. Just what more can you add on what this injury could mean for them long term?
Well, long term, it's mixed in with the short term, Laura. And essentially, this becomes an audition for Jameis Winston to see what he's capable of doing if and when Drew Brees is not back next season. And I think there's a widespread sense, belief, whatever you want to call it, that this was going to be Drew Brees' last season. And I think when you're 41 years old and you're out there playing with cracked ribs and a collapsed lung, I think that just reinforces the notion NBC's waiting for him. And I think he's waiting for NBC. And he's a great quarterback. He's been in this league for 20 years. He's had a Hall of Fame career. But essentially, at some point, you move on. And I think a lot of people believe that it will be after this season. And once it is, what do the Saints then do? Now, I think that they believe an awful lot in Taysom Hill. But last year, Teddy Bridgewater stepped in and went 5-0 in Brees' absence. Jameis Winston's going to get a similar opportunity now, we would expect, though Sean Payton did not want to identify who will be his starter.